everybody. So this week we got a little bit technical in our lessons, and I want you to really think carefully about the particular notes that you are using, that you are playing when you're putting your fingers down on the string. Now, if you look at the tapes that I've put on your fingerboard, this is a smaller violin because I don't have any tapes, you can see that the distance between the nut and the first tape is a fairly big distance. And that's the same distance as that between the first tape and the second tape. You see that they're the same distance. But between the second and the third tape, there's a small distance. And we're not going to worry too much about the fourth finger for right now, because as you know, the fourth finger is like a mimic of the open string above it. So don't worry about this one. But the reason that these are placed in different places is because they're made up of a pattern of whole steps and half steps. And it can really help you later on if you're thinking about the particular notes that you're playing. So that's why I've asked you to fill in this sheet. Now, there is a spare one to download if you have lost yours or if I didn't manage to give you one in the lesson. So if you take a look at this chart just here, the reason I've included the piano keyboard is because there is a half step between every single note on the piano, a half step. So for example, if you look at an E and an F, then there is no black note in between them, so they're a half step away. But between an F and a G, there is a black note in the middle, so this must be a half step, whole step. There's a whole step between F and G. Now things get a little bit tricky if you're trying to work out a whole step above an above an E. If you went up a half step to the next note, it would be an F. So to go up the other half step, we get up here to an F sharp. So here's what you had to do in the lesson with this chart. Imagine that you're playing this open string, the G, and then we know that there's a whole step distance between the G and the first finger. So we need to work out what that is. We look at a G. If we go up a half step, we get to G sharp. If we go up another half step, it's A. And since there are two half steps in a whole step, logically, we know that this one, this doesn't happen in show business, would be an A. Now just look at this one, because this is one that a lot of people got caught out with. Here's an E, and we need to find a whole step above an E. So like we just did in the example, look at an E. If you go up a half step, it will be F, but we need a whole step, so it will be F sharp. That one caught out a lot of people who accidentally went to the next note instead of the next but one note. So we're going to fill in all of these and see if you get them correct. And following the same principle, there's a half step between these two right here. So all you need to do is go up one note. And if you've got this one right and this one right, then you're probably going to get this one right too. So we then moved on to this chart just here, and the principles are the same, but you can see that instead of having a whole step, half step, we've now got a whole step, half step, whole step. Now here's a little cheat. Because there's still a whole step before the first finger, all these four boxes will be the same as these four boxes. And because we've just switched the whole and the half, all of these ones in the third row down will be the same as these ones in the third row down. It's just this one, the middle column, that you have to work out, okay? So the reason that we're doing that is because up till now we've been taught, as you will work out, that second finger on the D string is an F sharp, and you will work this out because here's a D, you go up a whole step, you get to an E, you go up a whole step, you get to an F sharp. However, that's not always the case. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at how you know whether to use an F sharp or an F natural. But let me just explain to you where an F natural and F sharp will be. So before, we've played a D, we've played an E with one finger, and we've played an F sharp with two fingers. Yes, right? However, you can see that the F natural is a half step lower than F sharp. Whenever we have a half step between two notes, they're a very small distance away. So if we want to get the F natural, instead of having a big distance between the 1 and the 2, we're going to slide the 2 back so that it's right close to the 1. Now we'll be doing this a lot more in the next few days, but listen out. Here's the O, 1, and what we call high 2. But to get to the F natural, we've got an O and a 1 and a low 2. So do you see how the 2 is not on the finger tape? It is midway between the 2 finger tapes. Just one more thing, if you are practicing this, this is one of the reasons that I've been harping on about not having your wrist up. Because if your wrist is up, it's very hard to pull back that 2 so it's right next to the 1. If your wrist is down, your 2 could practically do the splits away from and towards the 1. So make sure that wrist is down, or this is going to be very difficult. So practice that wrist position and fill in the whole chart. We'll be talking about it more as we go on.